we are doing something I don't know, we've ever done, Clint. We are actually going to make a video, and we're gonna like write an article around the video, because the video is really we're gonna talk through a very important issue that, quite honestly, Clint and I both know that people don't want to hear about.
Yep.
So
And I will say this: we're business casual today because this is a very
we
business-oriented, fiscally responsible conversation.
that's right. Clint and I have dressed up a little bit because we want to talk money with you guys. We want to talk about, like, we've had several articles. We've talked about free agency. We've talked about cap space. We've talked about the CBT. But all that has been focused on 2023. And today we're going to take you on a journey that's going to take us out to at least 25 and start looking ahead to 26. And here's the thing. Clint and I just did our little pre-chat. We wanted to make sure that we talked about the reason we're having this discussion today is because the decisions we make today are going to impact some things that we're going to want as all Astros fans that have happened in 25 and 26. And if we make certain decisions, those decisions are going to be really hard, and we'll talk about that. And if we make other decisions, those things will not be as hard, and we can maybe do a better job getting the ball rolling. All right, so Clint and I teased it. Any more teasers before we bring up the big spreadsheet?
Um, I don't have any teasers. I would just go ahead and give everybody fair warning. We might say something about a player that you really love that you may not like, and we apologize if that offends you. But we don't apologize for being honest and for being considerate of what we're really trying to accomplish here. And that has always been Larry and I's biggest discussion. And everything revolves around how do the Astros maintain this level of competitive performance beyond this window of core players and Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, and then adding in Jordan Alvarez and Lance McCullers Jr. So there's going to be a little bit of discomfort, but the ultimate goal is to continue to keep this team on the brink of championship success year over year. And I think and Larry's data and everything that's going to come up is going to paint a really good picture on what it may take and what you may not like about the decisions that could come to light.
Okay, thank you for that, Clint. So guys, we have to appreciate that the Astros have done something that most every other, and we'll get to this article at some point this offseason, the Dynasty article. And in the Dynasty article, we're gonna talk about, like, how what the Astros are doing is just so rare. And most teams that ever do what the Astros are doing are like the Dodgers and the Yankees, and they just spend their way to being able to do what what the Astros are trying to do. And so what we're going to talk about is how the Astros can do it without, like, putting themselves in a financial position that they can handle. So what is Pablo telling us here before we get deep into it? Baseball teams are, at the end of the day, a business. The successful business, you have to win. Keep that in mind, guys, when keeping players because of sentimental reasons. Okay, there we go. Pablo, I think Pablo is gonna be okay with what we
Well,
talk about here.
show's over, Larry. Pablo did it.
Pablo
No.
Pablo's Pablo's right in one of the themes here. Okay. So here it is, guys. This is so you guys have gone to any of the articles we talked about. We had a CBT article, we've had a free agent article, we've shown some things like this information. But what I've done now is I've extended it out to the window all the way to 2029 to the players that are under control to that point. And what we're going to talk about first is, I guess we should have given Pablo, let people see the the genius that is Pablo. I guess that's not going to come up. Okay, well, Pablo, let me do this. I'll show that. I'll show it there. There you go.
There we go.
Okay, so guys, what we're showing here is the Astros payroll in 23 through 29 with the commitments that they make down in these. That's the blue, and I'll talk about the orange in a minute. The yellow cells are essentially the players that are currently in arbitration, when those players go into free agency, and the players that are in pre-arbitration. And then these, when they start having a number associated with them, that's when they go into arbitration. So I've projected. Now you guys can argue with any one of these numbers that you want. I've basically gone back and looked at like what happened to this player. What did Correa do in his arbitration years? What does it look like for players in first, second, third, and fourth years of arbitration? Um, and my 23 numbers come from Roster Resource, where they've projected, and their method for the 23 numbers is more rigorous than mine, because I'm not really concerned about any of these individual numbers, guys. I'm trying to paint the picture. Some of my numbers may be 30% too high, some of them may be 30% too low. But at the end of the day, that's not really what I'm focused upon. It's over the overall financial cost of those players in arbitration. Then these are the way we add these up, and I highlighted in the CBT article, but we've got the arbitration numbers, and we've got uh, player write off that we have in 23 for players that we are having to pay to close off their options. Like Will Smith is in that number for $1 million. Then there's always also estimated salaries for players not eligible for arbitration. That's where all these pre-arbs add up to a number that's kind of like this. Then you've got salaries for players in the minors that are on the 40 man. Then there's benefits. So some of the things you talk about, like bonuses and such, there's an estimate in there for bonuses. And then and guys, I haven't even figured out what this is. I know with the new CBT, there's a new bonus pool for pre-arbitration, and then if you are like, I don't know, I don't remember what it is, but the top players in the pre-arbitration pool get a bonus if they're ranked so high in the MVP voting, something like that. At the end of the day, it's a number that goes into payroll. This goes into the CBT calculation. All right, so here at the end of the day, guys, this is where the 23 number would track to. The line in red here is the critical line, and then what we'll talk about is like we'll calculate the tax. Okay, so just trying to getting you comfortable with the numbers here first. Okay, so now the cells in orange are and don't get too caught up on exactly like Bell and Benintendi are just the two players I've added to this, because I think they would be the two best players that the Astros could go get from a position player standpoint. Notice I didn't add Brantley, and I didn't add Gurriel, because if I'm the GM, that's not the way I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, what you need to know is I got $30 million allocated for additional free agents beyond $40 million for Verlander. Now, maybe that's too high. We can go 0-1 of those in a minute. We'll run some scenarios that we'll let the chat suggest some scenarios they want us to run. But this is what it looks like from a number standpoint if the Astros sign Verlander, sign Bell, sign Benintendi, and they've already signed Rafael Montero. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And down here we're at 252. That's over the CBT. Now, what I haven't talked about to this point, and because I mentioned that in one of the articles, that if we went down this path with Verlander, we're probably at this kind of level. Now, I'm not sure you can actually do all three of those additional players, but if you did, this is where you'd be. The bigger problems become in 24. You're further over the cap, which the cap goes actually up to 237, or CBT goes up to 237. CBT goes to 241, but the Astros would be at 302. You may be thinking, how is that happening? It's happening to you because arbitration's not free. Okay, you're under control, but you're negotiating a salary, and so if we assume that Valdez stays good, he's going to be a $16 million arbitration pitcher by the end of that, somewhere in that range, and Kyle Tucker is going to be a $14 million outfielder in arbitration. I have not given those guys a contract in this scenario, which is another big red flag, right? And I didn't mention Javier. I think these are the three that you would definitely want to have under contract before you got to 2025. But putting them under contract probably means you negotiated that in the. If you didn't do it this year, you're doing it after the season, and this number in 2025 even blows up even higher because that number starts becoming a long-term deal, which is probably 20 to 25 plus for each one of those three. So this is actually conservative on those three in 2025. So as you can tell from this conversation, 2025 is the problem. Now, when I say it's the problem, because if you're over the cap, over the CBT in 23 and in 24, if you sign Verlander and an additional free agent, you're going to be. You are going to be, like this 302. Your tax in 25 is going to be 43, almost $43 million. So that's $43 million in addition to the 303. We're asking Jim Crane to have a payroll of $345 million. I don't think that's going to happen. So the question become, okay, well, let me back up. What I also did in 25 is I assumed we are going to make the decision to extend Altuve and Bregman. This is where the issue comes because those guys are making 29 million in 24 and 30 million in 24 for Altuve and Bregman. I just assumed he could get a $32 million extension with inflation at that point. That's the number that they could be negotiated to. Now you can say, well, we wouldn't extend both, okay? But I'm going to say, well, which one are we not extending? Because here's where we come. Here's the issue. The dynasty is built largely on the backs of that infield that we've had: Correa, Bregman, and Altuve. Everybody else was built around them. Now I would say the dynasty is built on the backs of Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, and Tucker. Alvarez is taken care of beyond. He's this guy. That's line number 11. He's all the way good to 2028. Altuve and Bregman are good through 24. Tucker is good to 24. I'm sorry, to 25. He's under control. But then you could lose him. I would also say that the current version of this dynasty is built on the backs of really cheap and excellent starting pitching. That starting pitching is going to start costing more and more money. We already are on the books for the CBT for Lance McCullers Jr. at $17 million all the way to 2026. You see the numbers for way I'm projecting Valdez as he grows through arbitration. My numbers for Javier are probably low, if anything. You see my numbers for Urquidy in here. Garcia's numbers, because he starts arbitration a year later, you see those numbers. Guys, they're going to start. I mean, we're going to start having to allocate more and more money to starting pitching because those guys make. I mean, those guys make nearly nothing. Made nothing in 22. And Valdez is going to make $7 this year. and your Urquidy's making 3, and Javier's making maybe 4. I mean, that's still very low compared to what we're looking at these out in 25. So here's where the issue becomes. If we all can agree that they're not going to run a $302 million payroll, what would we do? All right, so Clint, did I lay out the case? You nodded your head several times to that. Did I lay out the case of where the issue is as we start thinking about free agents
Yes.
this year? And now everybody wants to sign free agents this year. I think one message I've said continually is like, we don't have as much space as you think we do. Even if it looks like we do in 2023, if you have to sign those guys to 3 or 4 year deals, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
And the problem is
And
25.
I
Go
think
ahead.
one of the things that people need to, first off, what they've done with this pitching staff, from being able to acquire this type of talent at this pay on this pay scale through their international signings and having the ability to tap into that has been tremendous, and it has given the Astros the ability to pay for those core groups of those core
Position.
players and keep them here long enough. Yeah, the core position players long enough to make this window this big. Um, I think what you and I are both on the same accord on what we're envisioning for the free agent class and what approach they should take. You know, the real problem is if I'm Justin Verlander's agent and I pick up the phone and I call general manager Jim Crane and I say, "Look, I, I would like to make a deal. I want 3 years at 135 million." What would you say to that, Larry? And how would we want to actually approach this situation?
So what's the deal I'm having to figure out?
So I'm just speaking hypothetically. If I'm Verlander's agent and I call GM Larry and I'm like, "Look, this is what we've got. This is on the table. We want 3 years, 135,
Yes, which is
fully
bigger than the
guaranteed."
number I've got on the spreadsheet, right?
Right. Because uh, unanimous
Because
Cy
because
Young.
the Dodgers have already offered me 3 million, 3 years at 150, right? So
Yeah.
I'm giving you a break, Astros,
Yeah.
and I so so I've given you the page with Verlander in it.
Mhm.
Let's flip the page to the same, basically everything else the same, except there is no
Let me
Verlander.
know, Larry, if I didn't transition that right, but I feel like this is exactly where we want to start this.
Yeah, no,
Is from
that's
the elephant in the room.
elephant in the room is Verlander, right? Because
Yeah.
that $40 million number is a big difference. Okay, so if that 40 million is gone, and okay, now we say okay, let's go sign Josh Bell and Benintendi, right? That number that was 230, I mean that was 303 or 302, I forget which one it was now, is now 262. Now you're talking about not being what near, you're maybe a little bit over the CBT2 in that year. Plus, you probably tweaked yourself to be right at 261. Basically, that's close enough. You may let some of these other, you might not have Brandon B like in there. Okay, there you go. Or you
Right.
might not have um, Dubon in there. Right, you take Dubon and B like out, and they're no longer in the calculation. So you get below 261. But you're still talking only about that tax was in the 40 million range because you didn't go over this year and you didn't go over next year. You're not into the third year of penalties. Let me just show you what that looks like. Okay. So first year over is 20% overage. Second year over is 30% overage. Third year over is 50% tax rate.
So can we hold on, Larry? Can we scroll up a little bit more because I can't see behind the image,
Oh,
and I
sorry
just
about
want to be
that.
sure.
Yep.
Okay, nope, you're
There you,
good.
and so and then there's a 12%. There's a 12% tax over the CBT, a 12% premium that you're paying on the overage of the CBT2, which in this case would be 261 and 25. Then there's a 42% overage of the number that's over 281. So Here we don't have those overages, and we're paying the first level back to with the Verlander version. Okay, same. Ah, same sets of data. And I know this is numbers, guys, and I'm an engineer. I'm good with the numbers. Clint's an accountant; he can handle the numbers. But what I really just want you guys to see is see the penalties. See the penalties we're paying. You know, the penalty we're getting to is the $43 million because you have these huge overages and each of these levels, and you're paying these taxes on this number, and you're paying a 50% on that 61 million overage. So you can make all this work. You can make all this happen for you if you don't sign Justin Verlander. Now, I just said the thing that no one, every single person in Astros Twitter is either on one side of this camp or another, and like 80% of them are on like, do whatever it takes, bring back Justin Verlander. He just won the Cy Young. Are you insane? We have to have Justin Verlander. And guys, Justin Verlander, I mean, I have him in the calculation at 40 million, and you saw what the numbers lead to. If it's 45, that's just adding more injuries. And basically, you know, we can run the scenario with Verlander in and Bell and Benintendi out, but then I don't know who's playing first base for this team. And we can go put Gurriel in for 6 million if you want to, or 8 million. But I mean, I guess the difference there is it's a 1-year deal for Gurriel. So, but
So Larry, I just wanted to ask, just as a thing. So when we look at the scenario without JV,
mm-hmm.
and we're looking at that 211 million in 2023,
right,
and that leaves us 21 million under the CBT1 threshold.
Correct.
That would still leave us room to navigate, and if we wanted to make a trade or make an additional signing, we have 20 million of room. But I think what the other point I wanted to make is we when we look at this number, what we start to understand is kind of how we start to find a way to retain someone like Kyle Tucker, and how that will start to drive that number. Because, you know, guys, and I think this is, you know, I'm really glad we're doing this video and really talking about this, because my whole adamant phase is, if there was anybody I wanted to lock up in a long-term deal, it is Kyle Tucker.
Right.
You know, because, and Larry and I will talk about it a little bit later with the pitching staff and what we kind of see. But I feel like if we're looking at these core position players, there's no one, in my opinion, obviously on this roster, but almost from my perspective in Major League Baseball, that you would have the most most upside and potential, you know, 1A, 1B combination with Yordan Alvarez in these prime years. I mean, you have to understand, Kyle Tucker is going to be 26. Yordan Alvarez is not, it's going to barely, it's 25 and a half according to Fangraphs, but 26. So you're talking about locking up 2 all-star MVP caliber guys for 4 years into their prime. There is something to be said about what that type of value can be for this organization, and how they would then be able to navigate how they address Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman.
Right.
I mean, this is a conversation we don't want to have, but this is the conversation we have to have.
Well, whether or not we as fans feel comfortable with this conversation, here's the truth. This is the conversation that they have to have. Okay? They have to figure out this stuff. Now, if we had a good GM, this is the stuff that Click was, I guarantee you, Click was thinking about this stuff. So when he was being told by the owner to go sign a player, not caring what the hell the price tag was for that player, he said, "Oh, I care because I know I have this tsunami wave of players that are pre-arb right now that are going to be ARB eligible in an ARB 3 or ARB 4 years, depending on the player, that will be, will be will be paying, that we at least want to extend Alvarez and we want to extend Tucker, right? And so Kyle Tucker is way more important than anybody you're telling me to go get right now, Jim Crane. And you may not like it, but I've got two players in Myers and McCormick that I think can play center field. Now you're telling me to gamble my career on it, okay? But if someday you're going to thank me for this. Now you fired me before you could thank me, but someday you're going to look back and oh, that's why James Click wasn't going getting Starling Marte.
It's going to be that scenario where he's cleaning out Click's desk, and there's going to be this crumpled up piece of paper in the top drawer, and he's going to open it and it says extend Tucker. And then he's going to be like, wait a minute. And he'll hold on to that for 3 years. And then if he doesn't, he might look back at this and be like, maybe I should have listened.
The most to me, the absolute most important thing the Astros can do this offseason is to lock in Kyle Tucker for a $20 to $25 million long-term CBT deal before Kyle Tucker gets a chance to go crazy on Major League Baseball when there is no shift. Because Kyle Tucker is going to be an absolute beast when there is no shift. And if you don't believe that, just go watch every single Kyle Tucker hit or Kyle Tucker plate appearance, and think about how many of these are going to be hits now that were outs with the shift. And so let's get Kyle Tucker. And the way you do that is you can get Kyle Tucker in. You will negotiate or you will settle in arbitration. The day after arbitration settled, you'll say, okay, Kyle, we're going to offer you a 6-year, $150 million deal. You're going to get a $20 million signing bonus with that deal. And the other 130 is going to be spread over the life of the next 6 years. And you're going to make $25 million in the first year, and you're going to make $25 million, essentially $23, $24 million for every year for the next 6 years. That's what you do. That's what they did with Bregman, guys.
And I'm sorry, Larry, I didn't mean to.
5 years, $20 million deal.
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw us down this hill, but I know that this is a big thing.
Well,
it's been a big thing for me, but he's obviously one of the 4 pillars of this, this whole construct. But the other thing I just wanted to point out to everybody is, and Larry kind of started that, if you move, think about it this way: if you extend Kyle Tucker and you start paying him $25 million a year next year, and you don't sign Verlander, and you bring in those 2 free agents at that $30 million, Jim Crane may have to pay an extra $270,000 or $80,000 in CBT tax in 2024, just to maintain Kyle Tucker.
Correct.
It's almost like a cost worth spending on. And then you figure out how to navigate 2025, because you would not be that far over, or you would be in a position where I at least have a little bit of breathing room, or at least have an understanding of what I'm getting myself into, or you just choose to pay it because you've gotten such great production out of your core guys. Once again, you've won another World Series. I think that's kind of the whole the shift and the dynamics of this that are just really fascinating.
Right. So let's also address the other elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it before we came on. So, review for the folks. Framber Valdez is how old? Clint, how old is Framber Valdez?
I was going to say, does somebody want to guess before I say it? But Framber Valdez is 29 years old.
He's 29. So that means after the 23 season, he'll be 30. After the 24 season, he'll be 31. 25 season, he'll be 32. I'm just here to tell you guys, if there is no scenario where the Astros are going to sign Framber Valdez to a big money 5-year, 6-year deal at age 32 years old, unless he has been like the most durable and shows absolutely no signs of any possible injuries. That I mean, and to be fair to Framber, that's pretty much describes who he's been.
Yeah.
But a 32-year-old Framber, it's in the context of everything else we've shown here, uh, I mean, you could make the case. At 26, we're going to have a lot more clarity about some of these other guys that I've put on in the arbitration bin, and maybe you figure out a bunch of these guys you don't need. But the guys that's kind of where that's going. Now, I would think the balance of that is Christian Javier, who's what 26 now.
Christian Javier is 26. He'll be 26, and then Luis Garcia is also 26.
All right, so Christian Javier, so it'll be 27, 28, 29. You can obviously see that's where I would suggest you go with a $30 million. I mean, maybe you do it before basically you settle this arb, and then you do that deal, which is essentially what they have done with other players. I mean, I think that's essentially what they did with Lance McCullers, if I remember right. That deal got done in his last year after his last year of arbitration was settled. I may be wrong about that, but they have done that. I think you buy out Tucker's, and then you do Javier somewhere late. So the point of all that, guys, is that there's no way that most of that can happen. I mean, okay, let's go back and put it in the Verlander model. Okay, we'll go put $25 million here, 25 million, and we'll put that in red, and we'll put that there, and it's going to be so ugly. All right. Now we're at 313 in 2025, and we are paying a tax of $55 million. And I mean, you can dump other salaries in this, but I mean, the point is you are going to be dumping some of these other salaries, and the answer may be, well, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay McCormick nor Myers the numbers you've got in here, Larry. But I understand Myers is only 1.5 in 2025. It's not going to help you very much. And yeah, maybe Chas McCormick is $5 million. You're not saving yourself out of that deep hole you just dug. And so here's the truth about a Justin Verlander deal. If Justin Verlander will take a 2-year deal, you might be able to convince yourself that you can do that. But you have to know going in that you've probably put yourself in 3 straight years of being over the CBT, because you're going to be over in 25, even in the non Justin Verlander, you're over in this year. So you're paying, this number's no longer correct because you're paying the tax on 50% of that. So maybe it may calculate right. I don't know. No, you're actually paying 16 million there. So yeah, you're like at an 18 or 20 million dollar tax, because if you sign Verlander, then that's your 3rd year. You're paying the 50% premium, not the 20%. That's this number right here. Third year tax. Okay, so guys, I mean, here's the point of all this. We got to be careful, or we don't. They do. Okay. I get it. Some people say, well, why are you worried about their money? I'm worried about their money because it helps settle what's really going to happen. I guess my role in this is help the Astros fan base have a reality check of what's really going to happen, and not like set yourself up for being unreasonably disappointed, because you're not going to be able to have Verlander for 3 years and have. Your other option is, okay, tell me who you don't want. Jose Altuve or Alex Bregman. That's a decision I don't want to make. I want both of those guys to play their entire career as Houston Astros, just like Bagwell and Biggio. And I, I don't want a world where there's no Jose Altuve in an Astros uniform. And I want Jose Altuve to play, you know, his 33, 34, 35, 36 years as a Houston Astro. And then we can talk about at age 36, maybe, okay, can we get some discount off of your big number, Jose, because you're not quite the player. You're not going to play every day. Um, and let's ride it out to getting your 3,000 hits all as an Astro. Bregman, guys, Bregman is still young. Bregman's what, 28 plus 28 and a half?
Bregman's 28 and a half.
Yeah. So, I mean, so 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Now, if you tell me at age 34, Alex Bregman goes chase money, I think I'll be a little more okay with that. Than I want Alex Bregman's 30, 31, 32, 33 years. So,
Yeah, we want those prime years in the Astros uniform. 100%.
I do, just because to me, they're the core. I mean, probably by 2025, 26, it's probably an Alvarez, Tucker, and it may be one of the outfielders that we took in the draft, right? But right, Pablo, I'm all for that. Jose Altuve should go straight from playing for the Astros to retiring to 5 years later. He's going into the Hall of Fame, and everybody knows that he's going to the Hall of Fame.
And I think that's the case of, we have the ball player numbers above the scoreboard at Minute Maid. There's 2 spots set aside for these guys. And I think that's the kind of thing that Larry is really getting at, and that's where I'm looking at this is these guys have been the cornerstone of what this dynasty has been. And they have, I mean, I'll say this, and I'm younger, but in my opinion, these guys have really cemented what the Astros are and the legacy of this organization now. It started long ago, and it had its moments when the Bagwell Biggio era, but these guys broke through.
Well, here's the truth, guys. We will have a debate. I mean, there's no debate today. Jeff Bagwell's the greatest Astro that ever played. That may change. And Jose Altuve is already the best second baseman that's ever played for the Astros. Sorry, Craig Biggio. I think Craig Biggio wouldn't even. I think Craig Biggio himself would tell you that. Okay, Craig Biggio has 3,000 hits, but I think he would just look you in the face and say, "Are you kidding? Jose Altuve is the best second baseman that's ever played for the Astros, and I'm number 2." And there's just no doubt about it, because look at what he's done. Look what he led his team to do, and what I did. And it's just fact. So I love me some Justin Verlander, guys, but I'm not willing to give up on Jose Altuve or Alex Bregman to keep Justin Verlander here for 3 years. And I think Verlander, in some of his warnings, we kind of had a Twitter chat discussion about it. Like, Verlander's, I think he's looking at it. It's like, I'm going to go where the market dictates. And people are saying, well, he's going to dictate the market.
Exact text, Larry, and was going to read it back to you.
I mean, I said, guys, this tells me that Justin's figured out that it may not happen here at the Astros because Justin Verlander's smart. They can put stuff together like this. It's not rocket science. Maybe call up the video here in an hour and you can figure it out, right?
So the Verlander on the Astros. As Verlander on the Astros, he said, "I'm not a negative person, so I don't want to sit here and say I won't be back because it's been a wonderful ride. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to be in a situation where the market will dictate itself."
And people said, well, he's the one dictating the market, so therefore he can come back to the Astros. Like, okay, yeah, but he's still going to want 35 to $40 million,
Mm-hmm.
and even if he gets 45 from whoever, San Diego or Los Angeles Angels or whoever, um, that money, guys. Yeah, I hope I've been effective in helping you understand the digital nature of some of these decisions. Now, let's put the alternate universe in. Let me just say, okay, forget these. We're not doing these deals. All right. We don't know how we're going to cover first base, but we're not doing that. We're still at 283. We're still paying. That's numbers a little bit less because we're not paying 50% overage, but we're still at 283 in 2025, right? And so if you zero out Josh Bell and Andrew Benintendi and you extend Kyle Tucker, yeah, it's still looking pretty rough because you're definitely over in 24 and 25. So yeah, right, Pablo. Here, this is where we started, right? I mean, the way the Dodgers have been able to essentially have an equal, arguably equal run to the Astros in the 2010s. Well, okay, the Astros didn't start theirs till 2015, and the Dodgers maybe a couple years before. But the reason they've been able to do that is they've been able to outspend, and they've been in the 250, 280 territory with their payroll. I just don't think it's sustainable for the Astros to stay in that territory. Okay, so Clint, did we give everybody? Did we help everybody see the picture?
I think we did. One thing we didn't highlight though, and I know we love Lance McCullers Jr.
Mm,
I love what he is and I love who he is. But I think one thing we need to highlight, and this kind of gets into the realm of how they may approach someone like Framber Valdez, and how they might approach Javier, especially if there is an injury to occur, is we might be looking back at that deal with a little bit more, um,
disdain.
a lot more disdain. Yes, a lot more of a bad taste in our mouth if we're unable to get the innings production and the actual value out of it that we felt was possible when we did it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's no fault to Lance. Like there's nothing about that that's the problem. It's not him. It's not the grit. It's not the talent. It's just the injuries and the unpredictability that came with that diminishes the value of what that is. And we were talking about this, and so I'm gonna go ahead and take this one route because I mentioned it earlier. So if you have a guy like Framber Valdez who would be 31, going on 32 at that 2025 season, he's an ace. He's done those things. If you're unlikely to hold on to him after that, do you trade a guy like that with the value that you could get? These are the types of moves that I feel the front office is really going to have to take into consideration as they navigate this turn, because there's going to be a point in time where the cycle is going to call for them to find a way to reload in spots that they're not going to have it anymore. Like you got to look at the ages of some of these guys, like a let's say like a Ryan Presley who's 34. You know, like who else am I missing here? Obviously Maldonado's 36 going on 37.
Montero.
Um, Montero's 33 going on 34. Hector Neris is 34 going on 35. I think I have that number right. 34. Yeah, 34 going on 35. So there's going to be a bit of a churn and burn type of thing here that they're going to have to find a way to either retool and reload real quick to keep the window open around these four key guys. And so how do you do that strategically without spending all of your resources on from a monetary standpoint? There's a guy, like there's potential there. So keep an open mind. It's it's part of the reason why Springer walked, Correa walked, and these things happened because we understood the value and we understood what we needed as an organization more so than what we needed from that spiritual fandom, all star, glamorous side of things that we really wish we had. But
Well, and this is where the harsh reality for us, maybe, Clint, because I think we're putting Altuve and Bregman in that category, and they could easily be similarly treated
yeah,
that those guys were. I don't think so. I think they are the exception, and part of the reason they are the exception is both of them took the extension in their late their mid-20s,
I
right?
think they
And
were
they
willing to
committed to
meet at
be
the
here to
table. Yeah.
yeah, they committed to be here into their early mid-30s.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
all right, guys. I mean, we'll open. I know we got a few folks that we didn't really publicize this because Clint and I were just we're putting this together. We're putting this down for the article. We're going to put this in an article. I I I think we just may let it stand and well, I'm not sure how much words I'm gonna put. This is like, hey, Clint and Larry talk about the ramifications of the moves, and we reference. I mean, I guess I'll put this table in there. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
this
I
is what
think
we
that
want
would
to
be
do.
the best thing.
Yeah, guys,
You
any
know,
questions? We have to be honest about Craig. Had Pena had a bad season, we might complain that Craig didn't that Crane didn't pay the man. Yep. We put a lot of pressure on Jeremy Pena to perform, and it worked out. And we hope it can
yeah.
continue to work out. But we should also be honest with ourselves. He might have a sophomore slump. So,
Yep.
guys, thanks, Clint, for joining. And
Yep. Thank you, Larry.
this is the we warned you that we were going to have family meetings, real talk with the family. Um, It may not be what you wanted to hear, but this is the kind of things that they're having to deal with and figuring out the future for this franchise. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye. Oh, wait a minute. Before I go, I almost didn't do it, Clint. Hey, if you're still here, like the video, subscribe to YouTube, tell your friends to subscribe to YouTube, tell your friends to come like this video, come to the website, like the articles and website. You know, come on, guys. Help the
And
Larry the GM channel.
I promise you, I don't, I am 99% positive there is no other podcast, YouTube streaming site, or MLB network themselves that are going to talk about this the way we just talked about it. So
Yeah,
please
we
give
just
it
gave
some
you
love.
real talk, real talk. All right, this is what we're known for. All right, guys, take care. Bye bye.